In this episode, we're going to look at how to implement OpenAI's API, and we're going to focus on the backend side, where we'll use node.js. So we'll create a simple node application. The way to create a new node application is by running npm init, as you can see. And please make sure you have installed node and npm to be able to go through this episode. It will ask you a few instructions. Once we enter, we navigate to OpenAI backend, and now we are there. We have our project ready and our package.json created. Let's create the index.js, and this is where we're going to do all the work that we need to integrate with OpenAI API. So in OpenAI, you need to have an account. You can sign up. I already have access, so I'll just sign in. On your account, on the right, you'll have view API keys. This is where you can access API keys. You can either create or view your existing ones or delete them. You can view them, but you can't copy them. You need to copy at the moment when it's generated. Awesome. So we're going to use that in our backend, in our code. So let's just save it there first. Now we're going to start by importing a few plugins. First, we'll install Express. Next, we're going to install the body parser. And then we're going to install the famous OpenAI. That's the one that's going to help us integrate with the API. So let's import them. So we'll have the variable express that will import the express plugin, yes. And then we're going to define a variable called app that will hold the express function class. Then we're going to define the body parser. And also inject it to the app variable. Awesome. Now we're going to create, we're going to add the port that we're going to use. This is relative depending on whichever port that's available in your local machine. Then next we're going to define the OpenAI variables that we're going to use. We're going to use two inside the OpenAI plugin: the configuration and the OpenAI API. You can find this code in the same where we were actually reviewing the OpenAI API documentation if you want to just copy, but we're just going through step by step. So we're going to set the configuration by giving it setting the API key inside the configuration. Our API key, we've already defined it. We've already received it from our account. This is where we're going to set it, but you can use the process that you can set it as an environment variable. In our case, we're just going to paste the API key itself in a string. Great. Now we're going to define the OpenAI API with a configuration set. Now we can use the OpenAI variable within our project, within our code. So we're going to create a post method because we are passing a prompt to this backend, and give it an endpoint of request. And now we set our function that will hold a rest and a rec for requests to receive the parameters that have been passed to this endpoint, and rest to return or to send. So we're going to get our prompt through we're going to pass up our JSON object. So we're expecting a key like prompt where we'll pass our prompt. The first thing we're going to define, you can get this part of the code on the OpenAI documentation. So let's define our response, where we're going to use the OpenAI variable and create a completion. Inside we're going to set a few properties, starting with the model. We say that the model that we're going to use is the Code DaVinci 002. Next, we're going to define the prompt. In our case, we expect to pass it to receive it through rec.body.prompt. As I said, we're going to pass a JSON that holds a key called prompt that will hold the value, the prompt itself. Then we set the max tokens to 2048. It should be 100, but let's just try 2048. It's something that we can play around and change. We set the temperature to 0 just to get a precise and deterministic completion, and we set the stop to that because there are times when you receive completions, you receive like more than one completion, and we just want to get one. So we want to define it with that symbol so that we can get the first one. Just stop after getting the first one. That's what it means. Reaching to the next new line. Then we send the response. Our response will be in response.data.choices. We get the first item in that array, and it will be in the key.text. So basically that's that. You can just copy or just go through with me as we have, and then now we just make sure we are listening to the port that we have set. Awesome. And with that, we are done with our backend, and it's simple as that. It was just the whole code entailed in one file. So with that done, we're going to use this in our front end. See you then.